Hello, everybody. Today I want to read something from a blog that I recently posted to my Facebook wall that I think all of us should read and hear. It's really excellent. I continue to be somewhat surprised and saddened by so many people, especially my Christian brothers and sisters, who did not vote for Donald Trump. I think that the reasons to vote for him were so clear. And the reality is that Trump, even if he did not live up to his promises, could not be worse than what we would have had under Hillary Clinton. And this article really gets to that. I'm going to post the link to the article underneath this so you can look at the whole thing. I don't want to read it all, so I don't steal all of this writer's thunder, but it's well worth hearing. The title is "The Painfully Obvious Reason Christians Voted for Trump That Liberals Just Don't Understand." And I would add that a lot of Christians don't understand, especially liberal Christians, and there are quite a few of those. It's written by Jonathan Van Maren. Since the election of Donald Trump, he says, the level of meltdown on the left has now reached proportions rivaling Chernobyl. University students at Cornell hosted a cry-in, meeting together to weep at the fall of Hillary Clinton. As per usual, more hate crimes were faked, and every bit of potentially racist graffiti was pounced on as evidence that Trump's election would result in vicious race wars. Actual violence and rioting done by angry progressives has been almost completely ignored. And then the one thing that keeps recurring on the talk shows across the nation: fear. As the result of Donald Trump's election, many people apparently feel as if the leadership of the country is now fundamentally opposed to them in some way, and they are scared. And here is the punchline. Next, Jonathan says this, which is exactly how Christians have felt under Barack Obama for the past 8 years. Scared. Many of my non-Christian and liberal friends find it bewildering that both evangelicals and Catholics voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, a thrice-married casino operator infamous for his vulgar trash talk. I want to take a moment to explain to them directly why most Christians voted for him anyway. It's simple. Really? Christians voted for Donald Trump because they felt that the threat of a de facto third Obama term posed to Christian communities was an existential one. The attacks on Christians from the highest levels of government have been relentless now for nearly a decade. Obama wants to force Christian churches and schools to accept the most radical and most recent version of gender ideology, and he is willing to issue executive decrees on the issue to force the less enlightened to get in line. Christian concerns are dismissed out of hand as, quote, transphobia, close quote. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton informed one audience that Christians would have to change their beliefs on some issues. And now Christians are having conversations around the dinner table about what to do if the government forces curricula on them that they cannot accept, because their own government is increasingly indicating that Christian parents are too homophobic and too hateful to teach their own children. Can you understand how terrified mothers and fathers are at the prospect that those in power want to actively prevent them from passing their beliefs on to their own children? I can understand why those from some immigrant communities might be worried about how a Trump presidency could affect them personally. But as for the larger white liberal university students throwing a temper tantrum, what do you have to freak out about? No one is saying that you can't pass your values on to your children. No one is saying you're a bigoted, fascist, hater of minorities, simply because you happen to have a different belief system. But they are saying that about Christians. And you were too. And they mean it. The students weeping in fear at a Trump administration have nothing to worry about. No one's going to cancel their women's studies program or shut down their LBGTQ2, etc. collective. Get over it. This is brilliant. And this is really true. Weren't you fearing what another Obama term would do to you? Haven't you feared being incarcerated in FEMA camps? Haven't you been fearing a global economic breakdown? Have you been hoarding food? Have you been buying weapons? Have you been thinking you were going to have to protect yourself or your family from what was coming? I've had to answer that question. I've bought extra food, but I do not buy guns to kill people with. Some people would say I'm a pacifist for that, but my God is stronger than their God. What I expect is this, and what I expected was this. If things had come to an end with a third Obama term by the election of Hillary Clinton, and people came to my door with guns to take me or my family, I would go to my door and say, "You shall not pass." And if they shot me, I was expecting to be glorified and hold that bullet in my hand and say, "Do you really want to fight me?" My God is greater than their God. Jonathan Van Maren brilliantly exposes the liberal lies, the liberal falsehoods, the fake fear. They have nothing to fear and they know it. It's never the Christian right or those who supported Donald Trump that caused any of the riots or that cause them now. It's the radical left who didn't get their way. Well, it's about time for truth and justice to be released upon the earth. And I still believe that it will be Donald Trump that does that. If you listen to his last speeches before he was elected, he was constantly making reference to the fact that truth and justice needs to come to this nation. Join me in my prayer that truth and justice will be released in America. I think we Christians now, and those others who feared the leftist policies of Barack Obama, can now breathe a sigh of relief and can now begin to think again that there may be a future for us here in the United States. I urge you to read the whole article. Subscribe if you haven't. Listen to my meditations if you haven't yet, and begin to seek God with your whole heart, because He is our God, and He desires us to know Him better.